Hi friends! Thanks for joining me again. So I'm Stacey, I'm a PhD fellow studying games and narrative, and this is Cerebral Arcade. So thank you so much for joining, and yeah, we're going to continue Kentucky Route Zero today, and I'm glad that I have some of the same folks back because I don't exactly remember where we left off. So hopefully you have game audio today, and hopefully I'm a little bit louder. So if sound is like not good, let me know. Green screen is slowly getting better, and we're improving the stream each time, so that's the goal. Yay! Yeah, as best I remember, we got into our truck here and went into crazy hyperspace, and I don't actually remember where we're going or what we're trying to do, and this is a common problem that I have with narrative games. This is actually why a lot of times I tend toward shorter form narrative games, because I can sort of remember them all in one sitting and digest them, but luckily the designers have provided our handy book here, so let's see what we're doing. Also, hi, if you guys could just say something so I know you can hear me, that would be really great. Also, the chattier you are, the better, and the more fun this stream is for me. So do definitely speak up, ask questions, even if it's just like about my day or your day or whatever. I want to hear about you and make this a dialogue. So, great, awesome. Okay, so let's look at what we have. So we have storage facility, find the crystal, then turn around. Okay, we have the Bureau of Secret Tourism, with directions to it. Man, that's, the text here kind of overlaying itself is kind of hard to see. I'm having a hard time going back. Okay, so maybe that was a bug or something. We have Mineral Springs. Okay. Man, just navigating this space is already feeling super puzzly. Okay, journal systems. What works, what doesn't work about them, and is Kentucky Route Zero good? Also the phrase journal systems. I know, journals are awesome. I'm a huge journaler. Yeah, I think, so journal systems, in some games feel very diegetic, like in Life is Strange, you play a teenage girl, and it sort of makes sense that you would be keeping a journal. So in this game, it doesn't necessarily make sense for you to be, carrying a journal. Like in this game, it very much feels more on the, you know, mechanical device end of things than on the story device end of things. But it is useful because, like, coming back to this game from yesterday, I mean, one day, and I sort of don't remember my directive or kind of why I'm supposed to be going somewhere. So I do remember that there were multiple streets named Dogwood that we were trying to disambiguate between. But I sort of don't remember what we were doing out in hyperspace. So, yeah, okay. Any thoughts on where we might want to head first? And if you've played it, don't be afraid of, like, spoiling stuff at this point. This feels very much like a maze, but in a very different way than we normally see mazes in IF games. So, the maze is a common IF trope, and without any direction, I'm just going to kind of start going and exploring. The maze is a really common trope in interactive fiction games, starting back with, like, the text adventures of the 80s that felt almost, like, obligated to have a maze. And this feels like it's in dialogue with kind of that tradition of mazes. Mazes were always my least favorite part of interactive fiction games, and I already am, like, feeling that sense of dread that I feel every time I get to the maze, with this kind of thing we're doing. Meditation tunnels sounds awesome. Yeah, I think so too. So let's maybe try those out. Okay, from the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, Drive clockwise to the Scarecrow, then turn around and head counterclockwise until you reach the pendulum. Okay, chat, I'm gonna rely on you to remember this. Okay, we're going clockwise to the Scarecrow, counterclockwise to the pendulum, and clockwise. Okay. So, Scarecrow, pendulum, and then we can't miss it, supposedly. So let's get back to the bureau. Yeah, exactly. So, so this area is kind of like, it's a giant loop, but not actually. Okay, so clockwise to the Scarecrow. Let's go clockwise. Okay, there's the crystal. Yeah, or I can take a picture of my cell phone. I don't know. Just for other people that are not us, Jagpack and I are both part of a stream, The Feather. Okay, where's the Scarecrow? We're both part of a stream on Fridays called Scholars Play, where we analyze games, and that's actually where Kentucky Route Zero was started, over on that stream. And one day we were playing The Witness, and chat got really upset that we took pictures of the puzzles on our cell phones. Oh, deja vu. Let's go look at you. Yeah, definitely. The fact that we can pull them up at will does seem useful. What's funny is that actually having them in paragraph form as a... Let's say... Same here. Let's bond with Shannon. Okay. I always feel kind of embarrassed when that happens. Like, I'm in a play, but I don't know my lines. And I love this. So, throughout this game so far, I've been kind of making... That's odd, and we can say what or let's keep moving. So let's say what. Just, you know, deja vu. Same here. It's just this weird road, or let's keep moving. Let's say... Same here. Let's bond with Shannon. Okay. I always feel kind of embarrassed when that happens. Like, I'm in a play, but I don't know my lines. And I love this. So, throughout this game so far, I've been kind of making comments about it as a play, or at least in dialogue with a theater tradition, through the use of lighting and the way we're kind of directing characters around a stage. And the fact that they're sort of, like, nudge, nudge, wink, winking at that, I don't know, it just makes me happy. Okay, so that's all we had. I also really love this moment where you can kind of see the skeleton of the road we're on, because it's sort of, the map view makes it feel very lost in space and floaty. And this makes it feel grounded, like this is how the characters would be experiencing it. Also, I don't seem to be able to control much other than just watching this kind of slowly zoom out, which is cool. The maze in KRZ feels more natural because so much of the game seems to be about space. Yeah, definitely. The bat feeder. Where were we going? The meditation tunnels? Okay. See, what's funny is, you know, doing scholarship for a living, wait, did we need to do something with the pendulum? I can remember, like, weirdly specific things from books I read, you know, years ago. Okay, there's the pendulum. Reverse direction. But in terms of, like, remembering the story that I was reading yesterday, or like, the train of thought that I had 30 seconds ago, I have a really hard time with that. So I appreciate your patience with me, chat. Okay. Let me grab some water, too. The brochure for these mossy tunnels recommends taking them as a site for meditation, an introspective labyrinth through which to walk one's concerns slowly, like a breathing exercise. A narrow tunnel extends to the right and another to the left. Okay, wow. Jonathan, you have managed to find the actual maze within the maze. So I'm gonna go ahead and congratulate you on that. Okay, I happen to have a pen here, and I'm gonna use this envelope. And we're gonna do the maze thing properly. Okay. So, let's start with my usual approach to mazes is to follow a wall until I can't. So I'm going to leave it to Jonathan. Do we want to go left or right since you have stuck us here? And I suspect that once we actually get into this, this is going to be way, way harder than a visual maze. Left, you say? Alright, let's do it. We go left. Conway and Shannon entered a cramped passage. A narrow tunnel extends to the right and another to the left. The moss begins to glow. Alright, so we start here. We can go left or right. And then again, we can go left or right. Here we have beginning. Alright, moss begins to glow. I'm also getting some choppiness in the audio, and I'm not sure if that's my machine or if it doesn't like streaming or what that is, but I imagine you are probably on your end also getting choppiness in the audio, and I apologize. So let's go left again. Okay. Crawl on hands and knees through a slick passageway. The moss is glowing more brightly now. Okay. Glowing more brightly. Yeah, I actually am also wondering if it's part of the game. It's leading to this kind of uneasy feeling that I think the chords alone might not get at. I don't know, it's making me feel, I don't know, uneasy. We'll keep heading left. We step into a large open room. The glow of the moss is almost blinding. Okay. Alright. Also, oh no, we went right. I meant to click left. Okay, well, now I've ruined everything. We enter a cramped passage, and we can close our eyes. Okay, I guess we have meditated, and I guess we're done. Okay, that actually, in the way that so many of these stops have made me feel super uneasy, that one really made me feel uneasy. Me as kind of like a completionist is really bothered. I really want to have explored more of the cave, actually. I'm also interested in the closing of the eyes there, because like these are the meditation caves, right? But also, I still haven't figured out the numbers yet. But also, like, there's kind of this, you know, recollection of death kind of thing happening as well. So, us closing our eyes in the middle of the mossy cave, I don't know, none of it sits well. None of it sits well. Yeah, I'm also kind of curious. Do we want to try to reach the meditation tunnels again? It's possible that when it zoned us out, we hadn't gone through the necessary steps. So, we can try again, or we can head somewhere else. Yeah, it also, I'm not quite sure what the iteration down here means. Let's look at our, we don't have additional notes. Valleys are cool. Yeah, we could do the valley. River tunnels. You know, I think I'm gonna go with leggy on this one since Jonathan led us to the maze. So, okay, clockwise till we get to the feather, and then pause for a moment to consider the cave walls. Okay, and then counterclockwise until we reached a birdhouse, and then turn around again. Okay. Sorry, Jonathan. Alright, let's find the feather. So, somebody in the previous stream said that they never got past this point, and I can understand why, to be honest. You know, it's really... this is a really interesting choice, because, like, from a design perspective, because it's sort of like, at this point, with the, you know, 30 years of history that has had as a popular medium, there's kind of almost like an in-joke at, like, how bad mazes are. Like, everybody kind of knows that they're bad. And they do it anyway. So I didn't see the cave walls. But we found some tunnels. Oh, wow. They're all mazes. Awesome. So, a series of arterials excavated by runoff from an underground river, which long ago evaporated, now a tangled vessel of marooned echoes. So, this feels like actually a direct reference to Zork, the Underground Empire, and, the tunnels, okay, they're surprisingly large. A distant scratching sound catches Conway's attention from a tunnel leading downwards. Another tunnel runs into the darkness to the left. Yeah, arterials. Really good, right? Okay, now we can climb down or go left. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think, though, the difference is that, mazes in the Witness are performed from an omniscient point of view. You're not actually in a maze in the Witness. You are kind of looking at maze puzzles from a bird's eye view. Whereas here, like, you are literally in the maze. I'm just gonna kind of click randomly because that has always worked out for mazes. But we're gonna do it anyway. Alright. A small ragged cat sits on a ledge carved into a wall. Seeing Conway and Shannon, it darts into another tunnel. So interesting. Okay, this is the second time now that, having just made some choices, we seem to have navigated the maze in some way. Now, that could be a fail condition, but I suspect, because this game has done so much of kind of pretending you have agency when you really don't, I suspect that actually what it's doing is giving us the idea of mazes without actually forcing us to navigate them. But I mean, what does it say? That, like, my first reaction was like, okay, here's a maze, and let me get out this piece of paper. And I literally did. I have a piece of paper, like, right here. So, yeah, kind of just funny. Yeah, anyway. Okay. So, okay, as described in the brochure, these mineral springs radiate with vigor and sweat youth from the pores of the cave walls, its sweet dampness evaporating and then recollecting on the ruddy faces of rejuvenated bathers. The air does have a warmth and fragrance to it that seems to relax the nostrils. That is the most interesting description of relaxation I think I've ever read. That was really lovely. Okay, okay, Shannon encourages Conway to rest his leg in the water. I think we should probably rest the leg in the water. The water is warmer than it looks and strangely soothing. so we can think about the day's work or think about the night's stars. This is really lovely. I think I'm gonna maybe ponder the night's stars. And yeah, all the endings we've been getting have been totally ambiguous and neutral. You're totally right. There is kind of this sense to me of like the way that the endings are written feels more like acknowledging that we didn't actually have much of a choice at all, rather than saying like specifically that it's a fail or not. So yeah, it kind of does feel like it's probably coded to say something like, once you've gone through 4 passages, that's it. And not really mattering if they were right or left. But I haven't played this multiple times, I haven't seen the same mazes, so I can't be sure of that. And this game definitely is one that feels like it both rewards replay and doesn't. And maybe it only rewards replay in the sense that then you know for certain that your choices that you thought didn't mean anything actually don't mean anything. I'm not sure. Yeah, the opening bits of Firewatch do kind of have that feel as well. So yeah, okay. So Conway leans his head back, eyes closed. It still feels like night down in the cave. Not just the darkness, but the lateness of it. Somewhere on the other side of this rock, the stars are still drifting along indifferently. He remembers some of Charlie's homework from when he went to college. Charlie was home visiting Lysette and Ira for the weekend, and had some book about astronomy or physics or something, maybe math, watching the relative speeds at which different stars pan across the sky, and using it to determine their distance. Yeah, that's a really good point, too. It doesn't feel... It does feel in some ways like being cheated, I guess, and that I presume that's what you mean by exploitation. But at the same time, like, it provides me a little bit of relief, too. I have a really, like, allergic association of mazes of just being really awful, and so I'm kind of glad to see that I don't have to, like, actually perform them. Okay, we leave the spring, and Conway finds a few small aquatic insects nestled in his pant leg. He leaves them behind. Okay. Alright. We haven't been to the gallery yet. Drive counterclockwise toward the TV. When you reach the TV, drive clockwise to the antenna. Alright. TV and then antenna. Okay. I also, for some reason, really want to be able to control this with WASD commands, which has not been a thing for me for the entire rest of the game. But for some reason, this feels like I want to do that. Can you say what you mean by the flow, exactly? Talon. Ooh, I don't think I've seen that yet. It did say we were going counterclockwise. Am I thinking of the wrong thing? Gallery, counterclockwise to the TV, and then clockwise to the antenna. Okay. No, we don't have a TV. Yeah, I think they do, probably. So let's go back around the other way. I'd be really interested. 3 binary choices that all lead to the conclusion. Yeah. No, it seemed to dead end. So it seemed like when I was trying to go back around the, counterclockwise, it kind of just started repeating. What is this Z down here? Oh my god, if the answer was on the screen the whole time... Oh my goodness. Okay, so I think no, I think that's just kind of a reset back to... Wow. Yeah, I've got nothing on that. Okay. So here we are. Yeah, so I think that yeah, that really captured mazes in IF for me. That really was it right there. So thanks for that, Kentucky Route Zero. You have been great. Let's talk to Shannon first. God. Okay, so is that it over there? We can say we don't see anything, or we can say it's dusty. Let's just be direct. Maybe it's after hours. Let's see what the janitor knows, I guess. So I do appreciate, yeah, it's true. I really like the dialogue. So what I was going to say is I appreciate narrative games in which your exploration of the narrative is really open-ended and you're not necessarily forced to, or at least it doesn't feel forced to follow a certain trajectory. What I like about this game, that's actually a really poor way to put what I'm trying to say, but maybe I'll get to the point. So what I really like about this game and the way it tells stories is that it leaves a lot of room for basically diving into the narrative as deeply as you want to, but still allowing you, if you're getting tired of a certain thing, to kind of just like move on from there. This game, obviously, like, you don't have kind of like free open world, choice over the narrative. It's clearly not a sandbox game, but you do have a lot of choice in how deeply you dive into each individual aspect, which feels really cool. Okay, Brandon says, "Oh, here for the night mass?" And we can ask what kind of mass it is or where the congregation is. Let's ask about the mass. Tonight it's a homily on work and need, which feels so appropriate after that needless maze that we just encountered. I haven't heard this one before. We can ask if he's the preacher. Sure, let's ask that. He says, "Oh, I'm the janitor. I guess this must look pretty strange. A church without a congregation. When they first moved in here, man, this place was packed. They had a mass every night, too, on Sunday. But it got a bit awkward to fit everyone in, and the numbers quickly dwindled. Once folks started to see it as a thing that was falling apart, they lost their center of gravity, and it just started wobbling." Yeah, so I think the ZZZ was on the screen for most of the time. It was on the screen for as long as I remember, but maybe not. And yeah, the maze was totally like that. That was kind of why I was making the point, is that both the maze screen and also us trying to find Kentucky Route Zero the first time were both like these areas where we had a really we had a clear way onto the next segment of story, but we also had a lot of freedom to continue exploring. And it gave us several objectives in our notebook of places to say, like, hey, these are places you might consider visiting. Whereas I think it did that more visually the first time around with just a large sprawling map that you as a player sort of felt an impetus to explore. Or at least I did. Then the preacher stopped coming too, but he left his old tapes. Same with the organist, and I found some old acetates in the bureau archives, photos of people in the churches, so I kept it running. You do what you have to, right? So we can be direct or not again. I did, so this is Minus. Minus is a Darkling Whelp. Yeah, he's gonna chill and stream with me. I have a lot of plushies on this desk, and I had sort of considered maybe featuring a different one each stream. But Minus, like, really helped me hold down the fort last time, so I'm thinking he might be my new buddy, so we'll see. Alright, so, well, I got a job. Work is play for mortal stakes. Wow. That's the title of the evening's homily, in fact. So, I really love all the traditions that this game is engaging with, and for me, this one feels very much like it's engaging with the history of Huizinga and, you know, sort of classic game theorists who are interested in work as distinct from play, play as types of work. I appreciate that this is kind of all centered around this church idea, which Huizinga also considered ritual to be a form of play, and it's just super cool to see, like, all of that stuff brought in. Okay, yeah. Yeah, thanks. I might keep adding co-streamers. We'll see. See as things go. My desk is too messy, but maybe next time I will pan the camera over and you can see the plethora of colored Yoshis that are over to my left. There's a picture of them on Instagram if you follow me on Instagram. That's the thing. So, I guess if you folks aren't here for the Mass, you must be looking for the old Bureau records. I moved them down to Unit C315 to make room for the Mass. It's down on the other end of the building, same floor. I need you to get the night Mass started, but you can borrow my keys. So weird that we have encountered this janitor who has just asked us to get the night Mass started, which is, like, kind of a really interesting commentary on, quests, it feels like, in and of itself. Like, we have just met this person, and starting a Mass is kind of like a pretty intense thing to request of us, but alright. Rest your leg, you're looking kind of pale. Well, I'd better get this running. Brandon Pless's play on an old tape machine, oh my gosh. So earlier, as we were exploring the country roads, we came across a church in the middle of nowhere that had what sounded like church music coming from inside, and when we went in to investigate, it turned out to be a tape recording. So this is kind of a throwback to that. And yeah, that whole encounter earlier was super unsettling and weird, and so this has kind of changed the tone of this interaction for me. So we can listen, or we can talk, and I will leave to chat which one you want to do. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the janitor did need to get the Mass started and didn't have time, but still kind of a thing. I agree. Let's listen. Oh man, and wonderful use of like visual aesthetic here, letting us know that this is kind of recorded. Okay. There are many days on which we proclaim the value of labor and celebrate the piety of the hard-working through feast or abstinence, recognizing Saint Joseph the Worker, who was foster father to our Lord Jesus, and who trained him in carpentry and in the merit of sweat. This is one such day. We can continue listening, and we can ask a different question now, which is... again, the fact that it didn't give us potentially the same question to ask feels like our answer wouldn't have actually been very important, and like this kind of moment in time is moving forward, sort of, no matter which choice we make. Okay, so let's continue listening. On this day we celebrate with the feast of Saint Joseph the Worker, and on this day other workers are also celebrating. Workers who do not attend Mass, or even one like it, even workers who do not attend a church at all, but who toil with clarity, with dedication, with perspicacity? I have literally never seen that word before. Who do as we do here in our church, inasmuch as they reflect the activity of God. As we do, they cultivate the earth, and at sundown they call the fruit of their labor very good. We can continue listening, or we can complain. The new question could totally have been prompted by the recording. My point is more to point out, I haven't seen many opportunities where we could go back and say the thing, right? Like, it's almost as if, like, the moment is just continually passing us by. Wine. Alright, let's wine. I bet everyone's telling you to go see a doctor. Hey, I get it, too expensive. My dad cut his arm pretty bad on a job, but he stitched himself back up because we didn't have health insurance. But then his hand didn't work very well, and he got pretty depressed, and eventually just sort of... Well, I guess I don't know what he should have done. Who knows, right? Always wine. I don't know. So... yeah, again, like, there's kind of this poking at the player as having choices, and, you know, the sort of like, well, he made this choice, but who knows what might have happened if he made another choice. But in this tone that feels like everything is kind of pointless, and I don't know, he dotted. So we can keep listening or talk to him. Let's keep talking to him. If you asked me what my hobbies were, I'd say card games, science fiction, and perspective geometry. But I run the slideshow, and I play the tapes, and I don't get paid for it. I take it pretty seriously, but nobody's telling me I should. Is that a hobby? Seems like there ought to be a more serious word for it. Again, like, the pointing at, like, this feels like a bit more pointing at games culture, but the super self-awareness of, like, all of this dialogue, right? So we have card games, science fiction, and perspective geometry, which all feel very much like, you know, a point toward the weird stuff that was just happening out on the maze that we had. And then, like, this kind of, like, blurring of the line between games and hobby, like, which thing is play and which thing is, you know, work. A lot about work, exactly. Okay, that's it. Next, there are some rituals that you and I aren't allowed to participate in, I don't think. And I don't remember them anyway. Oh man, that's, like, super ominous. Hi, got it. So now we can ask things. The mechanically oriented part of me is kind of curious what she means. What? I found what we came here to get, the file on street name changes. Which, of course, that's what we were doing. Nobody forgot about that. Certainly not me. You don't look good. Let's head back to the bureau and get this straightened out, and then maybe we should go see that doctor the clerk recommended. Yeah, a set of hobbies that typically correlate with games as a hobby. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Okay. Jesus, are you alright? What the hell? Wow, okay, so this puts us back in time. It looks like, we can say I'm okay or my leg is stuck. Let's say my leg is stuck. Shit, okay, I'm gonna pull you out. We have to get you out of here. There you go. Okay, are you hurt? Can you put any weight on that leg? Here, let's get you onto the tram. There you go. Now let's see if this thing has power. Ah, okay, so we had just like a little bit of a flashback there. And that was the flashback to when we had our leg pinned and when we got out of the cave. Which all happened on the Scholars Play stream that we did of this game. So you should totally check that out if you haven't. Okay. Hey, old man, look at me. Can you hear me? What happened? I don't know. He collapsed. I think he blacked out. He was mumbling about the old mine for a minute. The old mine where we met. Okay, so this actually feels like an interesting choice. So we can say, I'm okay. I have no idea what that's going to do. We can ask if we can listen to another sermon, which as a choice has kind of, making me, feel like we're going to continue having this conversation. You have work to do, which is going to probably end the conversation. And I think I need to see that doctor, which feels like the right choice, even though we haven't actually had a lot of choices that have called themselves right or not. But I suspect because these choices all feel super different, the way the game has done things with that so far has basically been to make none of the choices actually matter. So I am going to... yeah, totally! Please do. And thank you for asking. Yeah, for the record, all the people that are in chat now, you folks are not necessarily the ones I'm worried about posting links. But yeah, definitely check out that video. Let's ask if we can listen to another sermon. And yeah, as I figured, they were kind of like, no, you made the wrong choice, so we're just gonna go ahead and make the right one for you. We're gonna go ahead and see the doctor. How do we get to this address from here? Oh no! I don't know, it's pretty tricky going back and forth between, you know, here and there. The Bureau's the only way I know. Some of these folks do it all the time, commuters. Just go back the way you came, find the crystal, and then turn around. Oh, goodness. I'm, like, already getting nervous. We do have our little ZZZ there, which is nice. There's the crystal. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and see it. Alright. Alright, thanks for joining. Let's have fun doing things. Yeah, how's the game engaged with urban, suburban, rural life? As somebody who totally dropped into this game for the first time at the start of this stream. So, we haven't actually seen a ton of juxtaposition between those things. Honestly, we've sort of been, we started out with, like, rural highways, And then we're having, you know, this kind of bureaucratic runaround thing going on now. For Suburbia, I hadn't really thought about those as kind of things. I think because I would be inclined to think about them more in terms of each other. So since we've mostly been kind of confronted, I guess, with the difference between like the bureaucratic shuffling of files and things like that with kind of like a more rural aesthetic, I guess my instinct would be to say if it's doing anything with those things, it is in the context of trying to displace the player in terms of like comfort and a sense of like space and time. Yeah, totally. And Lemony has like a really succinct way to put that, so awesome. Almost went off the road. Yeah, go ahead. So hi Lemony, welcome. Have you played the game so far? It sounds like you know about it, so I'm gonna say probably yes. Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces. Okay. I hate watching Conway kind of shuffle across the screen. But it does a really good job, I think, with that animation, specifically with such a sparse art style of making it feel really laborious for him to walk. So, great job, animators. Okay, so, yeah. She left. No. Something happened with your meeting? Okay, let's get to Interstate 65. So you're in our system now. I can process you whenever you're ready to go back. Just let me know. So I'm gonna leave this answer to chat. Are we ready to go, or do we want to stay? Yeah, I'm not really sure. I could see an argument for both things. Yeah. Oh no, we have lost audio, which is awkward. Okay, there we go. Oh, I think I need to refresh chat really quick, sorry. Yeah, that's a totally good point. Oh, hi, Jimmy Man! Yeah! Yeah, we did see the bears. The bears, yeah. The bears are, like, my favorite part of this game so far. Although that's saying a lot, because I'm really loving the writing, the dialogue. Alright, let's get to the doctor. This is in the neighborhood just outside of Bowling Green. Get on 65 going southwest, take a right just past the observatory, just before the river. If you continue north, you'll be there shortly. Happy to help. Okay. And I really feel like I am not going to remember that. Okay, right at the observatory, and then north. So, let's give it a shot. Okay, so 65 going southwest first. There's the observatory, I would guess. So, we want to take a right and go north, I think. Dr. Truman's house? Question mark. I appreciate the question mark. The neighborhood at the address on Lula's card has been demolished. In its place is a large museum, still partially under construction. Okay. Let's check out the museum. I will totally go back to the gas station, I promise. And yeah, Leggy, so it's the, it is a similar interface to the weird cave stuff, but in a way that is conveying space really differently. Let's take a look. I'm all for looking before speaking. Okay. And we have this text that we've come to recognize as recorded. I just assumed they were from the power company. You know how they're always coming by unannounced and messing with this or that. I just shut myself up in the room to wait it out. No sense getting involved. Or maybe not recorded, but like mediated through technology, I guess is maybe a better way to put it. So now we have a chance to be the museum staff, which I totally love, the constant perspective shift. And I'm really interested in the power company through line here, so let's ask. Well, I wouldn't complain if they were really with that storm going on. I know they have to do their business. It doesn't affect me. I've got a generator, but you know, some of these folks around here, unprepared. Totally unprepared. Okay. I am always going to take the opportunity to talk to the dog, and I'm really sad that it didn't save our choice of name there. Oh yeah, I was talking to his dog. I was a weirdo. Interesting. Okay. That doesn't seem that weird. Gonna defend myself. You didn't see the guy. Tall, kind of stooped over, limping bad. Looked like an old drunk, if you ask me. I bet they were both drunks, breaking in here looking for a place to sleep it off. I just feel bad for that old dog getting dragged all over by a couple of drunks. Old dog like that should be sleeping on a porch somewhere, but that's loyalty for you. Aww. Well, it didn't stay long anyway. Interesting, how the game is kind of nudging me out. Let's talk to Shannon. I heard the man and the lady talking when they first came in, but they didn't see me. What were they talking about? The man said his leg was hurting him. They were looking for Dr. Truman, but he was already gone. But they didn't know, so they kept looking around. So that is such an interesting perspective shift, where we have people talking about the actions that we're taking in the game, in, like, telling it in past tense as if this is a thing that they're doing later. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like, I'm very surprised by this game, kind of, like, constantly surprised, in a really good way. And so they've already told us that there's nothing here, but, the completionist in me feels the need to kind of, like, poke around a little bit anyway, so I'm going to. And this beautiful panning, is rewarding me for making that choice, so, I'm glad. Oh, wow, that's really gorgeous. Yeah, I hope with my terrible, terrible computer the rain is coming through on the stream. It's really beautiful. So the option to leave is this umbrella option here. Wow, this screenshot is just so great. Okay, now I think I am probably ready to leave. Yeah, exactly. These people who come in and question the museum residents, right? Alright. We have an umbrella, which we have opened inside. No way to leave that way. Yeah. Yeah, and I just love how sort of intentionally this is framed on both of the sides with the scaffolding there, with the lighting equipment, sort of calling attention to the lights not being on. Come back this way. Oh, walk toward the camera. Yeah, okay. Oh my, wow. Okay. Wow. Alright, so, this line here, the way it is kind of like dividing the previous space that we just visited and sort of highlighting this area as an option to visit, which is the new area that we can see now that the camera has rotated, that is like so sort of like amazing in terms of visual design. And now the lights are on. Yeah, wow. And again, the way that like these lines are kind of like highlighting this area over here, it just like, yeah, it's super cool. Okay, so can't seem to go in there or there. Can go around back, so let's maybe head over here. Oh, look. I guess they must have gone through some papers here. It was some disarray after a few folders were pulled out and left on the table. I mean, it wasn't too bad. I only noticed because Diane is such a stickler. She's real organized, I mean. So this is a super interesting choice because I'm curious, was anything missing? Because basically that tells us, did we find anything here? Nope. Okay. They pulled out a list of the folks who didn't take the offer, folks who moved elsewhere, but they had filed that back, out of order, so I guess they didn't find what they were looking for there. Hey, while I have you here, work's kind of slowed down, and it seems like, I know you folks know what you're doing, but it seems like the residents are just kind of settling in. Yeah, so I find myself wanting to know more about these people that are clearly in like a different space and time than I am right now. Yeah, I get that. Just, how about that roof, huh? You just write us up a check and we'll finish it right up. I know you've got this museum thing going on, but you don't want to be slumlords now. Okay, I'm gonna, an umbrella. Yeah, that's a really good point. It definitely feels like either security camera or some sort of like surveillance aspect, whether that's camera mediated or not. Yeah, they came by and knocked on the window. We had a bit of a talk through the glass. I would have come out, but you know, shady characters. And yeah. Okay. Do I want the direct hint? Yeah, I think I do. Oh, sure, they were into everything, walking around, looking at stuff, talking to people, talking to each other. I guess that's just what it's gonna be like now, living here. So I love that as a response, right? Because necessarily, as a player, like, that is what you have to do. So it's written vaguely enough to apply to basically any player that comes in here and engages with us, but also you know, specific enough that it feels real and fun. There's a moment in Gone Home where they reference the fact that your character is always leaving lights on, which for me, going through as a player, I was always leaving lights on, and it felt really real and responsive in this way that was very cheap in terms of development to do, and so that response that we just saw also sort of has that same feeling of like self-awareness and like reaction to the player, even though it's kind of a generic thing, right? Okay, Fred says, I heard them banging around out there, and I just stayed quiet. I don't know what they wanted. I just put my headphones on and tried to ignore them, to tell you the truth. So that's kind of an interesting response, because it feels like, okay, these people, are, like, here right now, and just totally ignoring us. Alright. So, it looks like it's getting a bit more constrained in terms of where I can move. There's a tent down here. Let's see. They were hollering at that empty tent you folks have on display. Hey, if you ever need anyone to stay in there, I've been in worse positions. Yeah, so this space is really strange, and it has that same sort of like unsettling quality that a lot of the other spaces do. Oh yay, we have a person. Do you know, at first I thought it might be Hudson walking up to a visit. I'd heard him working on his boat just a bit earlier before the storm started. But then I saw a stranger's limping gait and a young woman with him, and I knew it couldn't be. I invited them in for a glass of bourbon, which they politely declined, so I just talked to them on the porch for a bit. And interesting that we can either get her perspective or ask what we talked about. And I think I'm interested in what did we talk about. Yeah, and that's also a great point, Leggy. Oh, we talked a bit about the neighborhood. I told them about Hudson and his sailboat, and the nice young couple in the greenhouse, and the charming Dr. Truman who used to live here. They were very interested in him, but of course, well, I don't know where he went. Do you know, I don't believe either of them have ever set foot on a houseboat before. I don't know that the older man had ever seen an ocean, in fact. It has always been my fondest dream to retire on a houseboat. That's why I accepted your offer and moved in here. It isn't perfect, but what home ever is? I only wish the house would sway a bit. If I find that it settles my nerves. Well, if we have another storm like that last one. So interesting. That last passage feels like it's really calling attention to the fact that these are all kind of different types of homes. So what we're doing is searching for this doctor's home, which we already know from the exposition is not going to be here. But again, this is sort of feeding back into that thing I was talking about earlier in the stream about as a player feeling like I have a lot of control over how much to explore, even when I know, for example, that it's not going to necessarily pay off in the way that I might want it to. Yeah, and that's another way that it's unsettling. I think for me, the unsettling that I was feeling was sort of this setup of people's homes inside what is purported to be a museum, in this way that sort of like puts them on display or on exhibit. But yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right in terms of like, this game does a lot with setting up expectations and then breaking those expectations. And I think also the framing that I had pointed out earlier, it feels very deliberate in terms of like getting you to walk forward, and then these moments of like walking off to the side feel a bit more surprising because of that framing, I think. Okay, we have another person. I'm gonna go check them out. I was playing in that empty cabin and they came by. They asked about Dr. Truman. I know where he went, but I didn't tell them. And now we get this like great moment of, you know, dramatic irony where like we as the player get to know a thing that the characters don't, which is cool and kind of a reverse to what we've been doing for a lot of these. It's a secret. Ezra told me and I can't tell anyone else. And so now, again, the game is like undermining our choice and doing the thing that it constantly does and telling us it doesn't actually matter. Who is Ezra? He's my age, doesn't really live here, just passing through with his brother, Julian. First they're going to help us, but I can't say any more about that. We have a lot of secrets. The lady asked me about my parents, and I told them they were upstairs in the greenhouse. Do you want to hear a weird story? Of course I do. The old man asked me about the cabin. He said it looked like another house he knew, and he wanted to know where it came from. I told him nobody lived there, so he went inside. He took a long time exploring. When he came back, he told me all about it. Okay. What did he find in the cabin? He went upstairs, and he also looked around the other rooms. I played with the dog. What was the dog like? The lady said he just follows them around. I wish I had a dog that followed me around. I'd name him something really cool, like Vladimir or Estragon. Now the part that is weird. He said he went into the basement. So I also like the way that this kind of subtly faded out, and now we just have text. That cabin doesn't have a basement. He said he found a staircase in the closet, or a secret door on the floor, or he dug through the ground. Let's go with the secret door on the floor. Then he found a rope leading down a long pit, and he climbed down. Let's not be surrounded by giant aphids. It was so long, his arms got very tired, and he fell in the dark. Ooh, or the walls were covered in the glowing moss. Let's go with this one. He didn't get hurt, though. Alright. I really don't want to be surrounded by giant aphids, game. The garden was very beautiful. He found a tunnel leading back. Yeah, again, with the sort of like impossible space, this game seems to really focus on the impossibility of space, which I think feels a little bit, to me, like commentary on digital. And, ooh, this birdhouse. Or maybe to think. The young woman had been anxious up to that point, but she stopped as well and examined the birdcage more closely. Seemed to elicit a tenderness from her. She ran one fingernail along the bars of the wire cage, marking out a tuneless scale like a child's xylophone. So yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. The fade out as indicating that the part isn't true is totally a thing, or indicating exaggeration, or yeah, or just also like as a player kind of separating us a little bit from the visual events that we're seeing in this way that calls them into question. So even if it is not explicitly untrue, having that distinction is kind of like making us wonder, right? Like, did this thing actually happen? Because another way they could have done that is just like shown us on screen that it literally didn't happen. But now we have to wonder. We had to get some real chickens in that coop, do some homesteading. None of these folks know how to live off the land, you know what I mean? Yeah, another kind of dwelling. Yeah, no offense against you guys. I mean, I appreciate what you've done for us. That dog was in nearly as bad a shape as the old man, just sort of shrugging along. They found some treats in the doghouse exhibit. That seemed to cheer them up a bit. So what's interesting is that, like, people referring to us as the old man in this act, even though Shannon has called us that before, I actually didn't read our character as being older before. So, it's kind of interesting. I think my mind has maybe just like filtered that out, and now like having enough different characters refer to Conway as an old man has kind of like forced me to say like, oh, okay, no, this thing that I wanted in my head to be true apparently is not true. I think you need to get some real horses in that stable. Did the strangers go in the stable? No, they just poked around a bit and talked about barns. They were pretty boring. Okay. Over here. So, it's interesting. You know, this game hasn't really punished me for not finding information. It has definitely, like, railroaded all of the information that I have, like, really needed in order to continue forward. So this is kind of the first time in this game that I'm feeling a little bit like, if I leave here, I don't actually know, that I know where to go. Yeah, exactly. That's a really great point. So over on Scholars Play, we talk a lot about the difference between, like, exposition and doing things symbolically and allowing players to kind of map their own meaning onto them. So, for example, we played D&D, and we talked a lot about how we used pieces to kind of, we used, you know, like, physical pieces to, you know, stand in for our characters. But there was a lot that we as players kind of, like, mapped onto these pieces in a way that we wouldn't have been able to if we were using, like, actual minis, for example. So, I like when games have a nice balance between telling you a story and also allowing you to sort of, like, map your own understanding onto it. And yeah, I think you make a great point. I think the conversations that you might have are also an extension of that, right? Okay, I'm not sure where else to go. So they mentioned papers being ruffled. And any tips or anything, chat, I would actually be appreciative. I'd really like the camera to rotate all the way around if I can get it there. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Also, chat, I really appreciate you guys being so chatty and talking so much. It's been awesome. Hello, Floop Goop. Yeah, oh my gosh, I hope you got here early enough to see the rain. Well, we have more rain, but there was, like, this really beautiful shot of our truck. But wow, the backgrounds and kind of the lighting use there is just incredible with the thunder. Okay, let's poke around a little. And yeah, I do think there's, oh my gosh, that was gorgeous. I really do think there was something to kind of setting up the expectation throughout the game that this is a two-dimensional game, and generally most of the rooms are pretty, like, well framed. That is your stage, and you sort of are, like, acting within that. The fact that this one has the rotating camera does kind of surprise you and, you know, sort of put you, I guess, in kind of this space that's, like, making you question your previous assumptions about the game as well. George, we were working in the greenhouse and I saw them come up in the elevator. They were lost, obviously. It was obvious. So I really love this distance that we're getting there, and I also really love the use of obviously there. So when I am helping students with their writing, one of the things that I am sort of constantly coaching on is not to use the word obvious, because things are not always obvious to other people. And the game feels like it's very intentionally kind of playing with that and saying, like, you know, oh, you know, clearly they were lost, ha 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 ha, and sort of like making this joke at the expense of the player, right? Which of course you're in on as the player, because you're also, you know, controlling this. Okay. Oh, of course, I saw them looking at that odd-shaped building. Did they go inside? No, they just looked at it for a bit. I don't know that I'd feel safe setting foot in there, personally. It always looks like it's about to take off. Which is interesting wording. Actually, I guess it's sort of romantic. Anyway, they seemed interested in it. Tired, soaked from the rain, they still stopped to examine this strange building. I guess I will take out my umbrella too. That's fair. Yeah, man, the zooming and stuff, so good. Okay. Difficult to see or even hear a storm like that, but I was awake and alert, studying the week's forecast. It should even out shortly, I'd say. Did you talk to them? Yes, we had a short conversation. The young woman heard my radio crackling from the cabin and asked about it. The old man was a bit disoriented. Disoriented how? He asked the most inane questions about my boat, whether I took it out fishing often, nonsense like that. I tried to explain that I lived aboard, that I'd lived in a small apartment on this land before, and have kindly offered an opportunity to live here on a sailboat when the neighborhood was raised, and so on. Difficult to communicate in a noisy storm like that. I think he may have been a bit hard of hearing to boot. Well, then they had to leave, looking for a doctor, I think. The old man was having a bad time. It was a short conversation. Flora was playing down on the lower level, and we'd been having a glass of wine in the greenhouse. We ducked out of the way when he came in. After all, they were complete strangers. Alright. Did you overhear them talking? Well, I heard the young woman ask her friend about his job. He's some kind of furniture collector or dealer, I think. It didn't sound like things were going well. Maybe they were here looking for a buyer? Yes, definitely some kind of furniture collector or dealer. I heard him talking about antiques. Oop, this way. I really love this use also of, like, parallelograms for leaves. I'm not sure why, like, it's just a small stylistic choice, but I really, love that. Ezra! There you are. Alright. I saw you folks drive up. I like your truck. What kind of truck is that? Let's just cut right to the chase. Yes, ma'am. He's out in the forest. Me and Julian took him out there a few nights ago, and he didn't want to come back. He lives out there all the time now. This museum is an okay place to live in the daytime, but it's no good at night. Folks just can't sleep in a place like this, or when they do, it gives them nightmares. So we take them out to the forest to sleep, and then bring them back in the morning. Is your family out in the forest? Oh, no, I don't know where they are. Me and Julian were looking for them for a while, but... Aw, that's really sad. Anyway, we have a job to do here now. Taking these people out to the forest at night so they can sleep. Maybe if the rest of them will be like Dr. Truman and want to stay out there, we'll get back to looking. Can you tell us how to get to the forest? You have to follow the Green River way out east, then hop over to Lake Cumberland. The roads don't go there. Okay, so we're gonna follow the Green River, and then hop over to Lake Cumberland, and I have no idea how we're gonna get there. But me and Julian can take you. Great. We were just about to go anyway. So we're waiting now. Yes, and again. Whoa! That was cool. Wow. So this is another moment, again, of having like this very fixed perspective on this map, and now now our perspective is totally changed. So yeah, it's, you know, it seems to be a recurring theme, this changing of perspective, like literally. This also feels a bit like my first Mode 7 moment in a game. I think it was probably Secret of Mana, when, you know, there are kind of moments in cutscenes where, you know, the world that is previously this top-down 2D changes to 3D, and then late in the game you get a flying thing that you can fly on, and you actually realize that you have kind of this this 3D world to explore, and it totally changes your perspective of things. Okay, so we want to go to the Green River. I'm not sure which one is the Green River. This one, and then follow it to the lake. Cumberland Lake? This is Nolan River Lake. Okay. I do have to say, I feel, small figure. Tiny gray figure walks along the side of the road carrying what appears to be a guitar case. He is followed closely by a smaller shape, a dog. Interesting. He suddenly winks out of view, perhaps into the woods. There's our bait shop. Where's the river? Back this way. There's the mine. The farmhouse. Man, so what's interesting though is that this actually feels really disorienting if you kind of like lose where you are for a minute. Okay, so this is the Green River, and I'm supposed to follow that to Lake Cumberland. Are you still the Green River? Yes. Excellent. Yeah, and now we have this opportunity to completely go off the map from where we were before, like literally. Which is really cool and fun. Alright, we are following. Man, the audio in this also is like so good. There's a chapel. Interesting. Chapel and graveyard, disconnected from any road in the middle of a dark woods. Occasionally it seems that a pale glowing figures, difficult to track with the eye, appears. Sometimes they roll huge barrels in or out of the building. Sometimes they just loiter for a moment, then fade out of view. Oh man, it's going in a circle and now I don't know which direction I was facing. Oh, there is a north little compass down there. Cool. The river seems to fade out though. So I kind of feel like I'm running out of world a little bit. No roads, go there. Okay. Alright, we're on the lookout. So yeah, so much of this game really is about space and navigating it, and it really does feel like being lost is one of the huge pleasure experiences of this game, which makes it feel a little bit like it's trying to make an argument about you know, kind of stopping to smell the roses sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. I'm now getting also some different audio. Chapel ghosts. No. Alright, so this is a different river. Barren River. Yeah, and looks like it ends also. Which sort of answers the question a little bit for me. I was kind of wondering, you know, one of the things with this moment in games is how it how a game deals with boundaries and borders, right? So, you know, I kind of... Oh, wait, what was that? There's a house. I kind of want to go back to the gas station, though. I keep saying I'm going to. The flayed hull of a country home smolders in the night. Parts of the property are obscured by smoke. Was that not... Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna check our little book here. Notes or forest? You have to follow the Green River way out east. Okay, so let's go east. We were just following it the wrong way, I think. And this is back to the Barren River. Ah! I'm feeling really disoriented. Okay. There's our museum. This should be the Green River. Okay. Man, leave it to me to get lost having you go, like, 4 feet to the left. Or right. That's probably why I was lost. Okay. There's the mine. Let's take a peek. From above, the huge swaying tipple looks like a small wooden lattice framing the edge of the mine. Man, it's funny because the rotating of the bird kind of gives just enough like just enough sense of 3D-ness that I want to be able to control the camera now, and the fact that I can't is actually particularly frustrating in a way that it wasn't before. Flying past at the speed and angle, the farmhouse is invisible among the trees. Its location is only marked by Conway and Shannon's memories. Interesting. Okay, oh. Head back. Following the river. Past the point where the roads go. This is looking very lake-like. Yeah, it does do a really good balance of presenting openness and also presenting constraint. But the way that it does constraint, it doesn't in some ways make your choices feel futile, but it also still preserves the feeling of agency in this kind of like paradoxical way. Shadowy figure drags itself out of the lake, stuffs its limbs into a smart blue suit, and trudges slackly out of view. Okay, let's keep going. Here's the river again. Yeah, exactly. It really is kind of like balancing those the actual choices that the game's giving you, and also you know, your kind of like desire as a player to want to be able to control things. Okay, now we run out of river, so let's circle back, head back to the lake, see if we can see more of that figure that trudged out. almost there. So this is the Green River Lake. We want the Elkhorn Lake, or Lake Cumberland, that's the one.
I don't know, friends, what do you think? Our Kentucky Route Zero expert has left us. So my current plan is just kind of backtrack up the lake, I guess, or backtrack up the river. It does feel like that was the area we wanted to be. And it does keep, like, circling us back around. But that kind of seems to be what it does when you don't, like, do anything. But man, that's really disorienting. Well, as a side goal, while we're lost, I think I might, just peek over here. Amazing that it had me lost on roads first, and then sort of just as I feel like I'm mastering the roads, then, now I'm lost in the air. From this angle, the building looks strange and abstract, like a pile of intersecting boxes and triangles. Very meta. Okay. Diner. All-night diner by the side of the road. The lights are off. And we have the Barren River Lake now. Well. Yeah, man. So lost. Ooh, that's freaky. We can just kind of fly through the blackness. Very freaky. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, thank you for joining, Leggy Starscream. I really need to find this thing. Yeah, so, I mean, I think when people use the term spatial hypertext, usually what they're referring to is nodes positioned in a space such that their position between each other is meaningful. So, for example, if you had things listed below each other, for example, you might interpret that as a list or what have you. But I think there you do definitely have a point. Like, there in the early days of hypertext and in you know, kind of early days of the web, there was a lot of anxiety about thinking of hypertext in terms of space. So that's where things like cyberspace as a concept comes from. This idea that, like, the internet was this space that you sort of plugged into. And there was also a lot of anxiety about being lost in hypertext as well. Like, with a book, it was really easy. It was really easy to, like, know exactly where you came from and exactly where you're going. In hypertext, there was kind of this this frustration around not being able to, like, immediately go back, for example, before browsers had back buttons, and stuff like that. So there is kind of in this work the same considerations about, okay, I can't watch it go in a circle anymore. There are kind of the same considerations about being lost and what does it mean to be lost, right? And also, Jimmy, we're so glad you're back because we are lost. And it told us to go to Lake Cumberland, and we cannot find Lake Cumberland, so we have our Green River Lake here. It told us to follow Green River to the east, and we are doing that. And we're still going east, but I swear I ran out of river.
Yeah, so like you sort of run out of river and it sort of forces you to go back. Yay, there it is! Hooray! Oh man. This is a really creepy way to draw a forest. Okay. Oh wow. Those parallelograms. We like them so much. Oh, so I guess we are Ezra now? Is that right? With the dog? Wow. It's okay, just take it easy. And... yeah. I don't think that's a good idea. Just take some strain off your leg for a minute and then we'll keep going. Why is this delivery so important to you? Ooh, okay, so we have a little bit of exposition here. It might be his last delivery. Oh, you're retiring or something? Or, sorry. Yeah, at least that's closing up the shop. That's, damn. Okay, and then Ezra can talk to the dog, which is just wonderful. I think talking to the dog is like one of my favorite parts of this game, alongside bears. Alright, I bet you were pretty wild when you were younger. When I'm old like you, I'll still be wild. So awesome. God, this like giant eagle, so well animated and just like really incredible. And we can keep walking. And there's our chorus. Wonderful. Interesting. Huh. So yeah, it does, I do agree, Jimmy, it seems to be treating time spatially in this area in the same way that, like, comics do, for example. So we have another conversation. Let's check it out. Shouldn't be much farther now. I think I see where the settlement ends over there. Well, these are some fine-looking trees, but what other things do we have? These woods go on forever. I would actually guess that they don't, so I'm going to say these are fine-looking trees. Yeah, really nice. You a tree enthusiast? I really like Shannon's character. I just like birds, birds like trees, or it's nice to have something to lean on. Yeah, I guess it's nice to have something to lean on. You're in a lot of pain right now, aren't you? So what's interesting is, like, both of our choices here sort of speak to Conway as kind of like this stoic figure. And really, like, a lot of our choices around his pain have up to this point. We're almost there. Dr. Truman will have a nice couch or something you can rest on, and some medicine or something, I don't know. You can talk to the dog again. You ever been here in the winter? Have you ever been over to the lake? Bet it's all snowy. And again, like, really what this is doing is, like, even though we are talking to the dog, what it's allowing us to do as the player is define Ezra's character now. I really love that. Like, the pleasure experience of this game, in addition to, like, uncovering this story, really is about shaping the story as a director would. Yeah. I interact with anything? No. So yeah, I think, this feels a bit to me like a commentary on linearity, but, like, only... I don't know, like, I hesitate to say, like, that this is making any argument or anything, like, for or against. It feels like, maybe potentially painting linearity and space in narrative as coupled, to maybe draw attention to places where that's not true, and also to have an interesting way to kind of convey the passage of time, I think, without literally depending on, like, real time as a way to do that. That felt like the video game equivalent of montage, which is kind of cool, and I haven't seen really done in games. Alright. Yeah, so let's say her husband Ira and I were friends. Fierce-tempered, hard-working, up by his bootstraps kind of guy, right? Sounds pretty intense. I guess I was always closest with Weaver. As close as someone can be with a girl like that. She was always her own wavelength, but we were the same age growing up and everyone else was so busy. When she disappeared, I got pretty angry, and I guess I stayed that way. I never really understood her, but I knew her. It's lonely without someone like that around. Sorry, you're a good listener. So, I mean, this is a moment also that the music has cut out, you know, kind of signaling to us that the montage is over now. It also has sort of, like, slowed down in terms of, like, our observation, forced us to kind of stop moving. Okay, Ezra, you have a way of falling behind, don't you? Wow, what an interesting thing to say. You have a way of falling behind, don't you? And then we can respond with, I'm always too far ahead, or don't be sad about it. So it's funny, even though the choices are not diegetic choices, they're not impacting the outcome of the story, they are still impacting our experience as the player. So these are choices that I would call extra diegetic choices. That is, like, they are having an impact on how we are experiencing the narrative. So if you think of a story as, like, you know, sujet and fabula, or, like, story and discourse, that is to say, like, one part, the story, which are, like, the events that happen, and discourse, like, the wrapper around that, the way it's told. This is affecting things on a discourse level, but the fact that, like, those changes are still affecting our experience as a player is still really meaningful, even if we're not necessarily controlling the outcome of the experience. Yeah, let's keep going. Nice. And so we have kind of the music coming back in this way that's feeling montagey again. Alright. Yeah, he's inside with Dr. Truman. Sure, I'll come in. Dr. Truman lets me watch TV sometimes. My folks never watch TV, but I like the way it looks. We can pry into this, but I don't know, I feel a little bit uncomfortable prying into Ezra's backstory with the family. It's easy to get lost, especially out in the woods like this. I never really get lost, though. I just look out for Julian. He's always around. My folks had a really nice house, bigger than any of these houses, but it made them worried all the time. Then the bank took it back. We had to sleep at the bus station, but I couldn't never get to sleep. So I just went out to fly around every night with Julian. We flew really far and we never got lost, but when we came back in the morning, they were all gone. They just left you? I don't think so. All our stuff was still there. Maybe they got lost somewhere. Let's see what's on TV. That feels like a very real interaction with a child. Okay, so we have the doctor. He's looking at the leg. And yeah, I think during that exit interview is when I really realized how bad they had me. But how else can you pay for medical school? I have college friends with debts, and you can't expect to pay that back unless you're planning to sell painkillers on the side or something. Or, you know, some kind of administrative thing. I don't know, having seen what arthritis did to my grandmother, my best friend in high school destroy his wrists with synthesizers. I mean, he was like 17. Ailments of the joints and limbs just seem important to me. Hope that answers your question. Getting a scholarship with that pharmaceutical company had a lot of strings attached, but at least I have somewhere to practice, even if I follow their market trends a bit. And hey, thanks to all those seminars, I'm an expert on medical uses of Neripnol. It's not so bad. So how about that leg? What happened exactly? No worries. Thanks for like, you know, weathering out your internet connection to be here. It really means a lot. So interesting that we can kind of decide here. Okay, crushing injury. Yeah, those can be pretty bad. Everything gets all compressed and there are a lot of little pieces to... You know what? Never mind. Let's take a look. How bad could it be, right? What are they singing about? Interesting. I'm gonna say they're singing about going home. Yeah, they're singing about their home because they're lost right now. It's a scary song. I actually find it kind of hopeful, so I'm gonna... Dr. Truman's gonna help your friend. He'll be okay. Yeah, this is definitely a game that's like really deeply engaged with storytelling across media. So like different ways to tell stories, you know, how different media have approached storytelling, from like theater to film to books to hypertexts, which is super cool. It's nothing we can't handle. You might have a few things to look out for in the future. Be a bit gentler with the leg on the way you walk. You'll be okay. So the anesthetic we'll use is called Neripnol. It's pretty experimental, but it's more appropriate in cases like yours. The way it works is I'll count backwards from 5 to start the process, and then we'll just have a normal conversation as the Neripnol takes effect. Then I'll get started. Here we go. 5, 4. Oh, I love what it's doing there. Making everything all squiggly. So let's talk about billing for a moment. The pharmaceutical company I'm contracted with was recently acquired by an energy company that has some different standards for billing and revenue, so it's a bit complex now. Man, and really like this electric company as like this evil shadow corporation that seems to control everything sort of keeps making a comeback. I absolutely love the way that this game has used typefaces and various effects on the fonts to symbolically stand in for things. So in this case, standing in for being drugged. And before, like I already mentioned about the things being mediated through technology or through recordings or whatever. Okay, and that's the end of Act 2, which is probably a good place for me to stop for tonight. So, yeah. I am really, really interested in this story. I find myself doing the thing now
which I am notoriously bad about doing with books also, where I'm really enjoying this game, and since the rest of it is not out, I believe it's a 5-act thing, right? Since it's not out, I almost like don't want to play this 3rd act because I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, so wow, I feel like we're kind of really beginning to uncover different like facets of the story. We're getting to see a lot more backstory. Yeah, I think we're still kind of in the unfolding part of the story right now. Yeah, and Jimmy, that's a great point. Like, I'm really excited to have some of these like loose threads start actually coming together and meaning stuff. So I'm really excited about that. I will probably continue streaming this on Monday. On Friday, yeah, I saw some people tweeting about the 4th act on Twitter. So one thing I am a little concerned about is like some of the other episodic narrative games that I've played, like Life is Strange, for example, does a really good job of reminding you what happened in previous acts at the start of each act. This game has not really done that so much, and so I sort of worry, you know, I started playing this game, I played it for the first time when only 1 act was out, so I do sort of worry that if I have to wait too long for the other acts, I'm totally going to forget what's going on. Yeah, and hello, Willbot Musket, good to see you. And also an excellent point that they're the interstitial episodes, and the sort of like external media and like transmedia stuff that's happening with this as well. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna continue this with Act 3 on Monday. And in the meantime, on Friday, you can catch me over on Scholars Play, where we're going to be playing Bloodborne on Friday, if all of our tech goes well. We've never tried with this new capture card, so that should be cool. But yeah, in the meantime, I think that's all. Chat, I guess, okay, so maybe I will play the intermissions then? That sounds like a good thing to do. So maybe on Monday I will do that stuff instead. I'm really glad I have you guys here to tell me which things I should do. So yeah, so Bloodborne on Friday, you should totally watch that. It's gonna be really cool. I think out of the scholars, I am the only one that has played it. So there's gonna be a lot of dying and probably a lot of laughing, so that's gonna be fun. And yeah, I guess my last question, I guess, like any questions from chat, anything you want me to talk about in this or elaborate on or get my opinion on or tell me about, or like any final things before I sign off. Okay, I will definitely do that. If you have suggestions also, you can totally hit me up on Twitter, or hit Cerebral Arcade up on Twitter, or on Facebook, or wherever. I'm pretty accessible. Talk about hypertext more on Monday. Sure. So hypertext is a thing I know a lot about. I am super happy to talk about it more. It's one of those things, though. It's a little bit like saying, you know, talk about movies more, because that's like, it's such a big topic that yes, but I will be playing on Monday with an eye toward talking about hypertext, so that is definitely a thing I can do. Yeah, so I guess choices affect the world as opposed to character actions. Yeah, exactly. And I talked a little bit on the stream earlier about kind of like the choices as functioning on a discourse level as opposed to on a story level. Yeah, and that's another good point too. You know, the way that manifests in this game particularly is the discourse is kind of the effects on the world that maybe don't have a tangible payoff in terms of story events, but are still kind of interesting to the way the player experiences the world and the story. So yeah, things from like
the songs to like the kinds of backstories you get about the character and stuff like that. So yeah, it's super cool. Anyway, thanks so much for joining, guys. The stream is slightly technically better than it was on Monday, and I promise it will be slightly technically better on Monday. We'll get this whole like chroma thing totally solidified. It's definitely better today, but hopefully can get more even lighting in this room, I think is kind of the problem. And then yeah, anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you watching. And I'm gonna sign off. So, bye!